Coffy, 1973, written and directed by Jack Hill and starring the legendary, the amazing Pam Grier. This is the film that would set up Pam basically as the badass action hero that we know her as. It would make her the queen of what was called blaxploitation film and basically set her up as an icon for as long as I can remember, basically most of my life. What's great about Coffy is that it has incredible ambition. It has incredible risks that it takes. And I don't know if this movie would have worked with any other actress besides Grier. Grier is this sort of unique talent and a sort of a unique looking talent that I don't feel we really see anymore. It feels like Hollywood nowadays is sort of grinding down all rough edges. And it seems like people, almost regardless of color, kind of all look the same. They all have the same features, the same look, the same sound. Whereas what's great about Pam Grier and the time of these films in the 70s was it was gritty, it was real, there were rough edges, and you didn't have people grinding their noses down and pulling their faces back. Pam Grier is just a singular talent. She's a singular sort of image and icon. And I think that's what really sets up Coffy to be really this incredible movie. It's so ambitious. It's about a woman whose name is Flower Child Coffin, and she is a nurse here in Los Angeles in the 70s. She's known just as Coffy as a nickname, and she has seen all manner of devastation that has happened to her community due to drugs, the drug trade, the crime that results from what would become the drug war. And while she is a vulnerable, thoughtful, caring woman, she has also suffered incredible losses of her younger sister and other siblings, not to mention people that she loves around her. And so she takes it into her hands to go after the pushers and the kingpins and even the corrupt cops that prop this enterprise up. Again, this has never been done before, to my knowledge, in film. Quentin Tarantino talks about how Jim Brown, another great action hero of the 70s, was compared to Bruce Lee. The great Big Jim Brown was compared to, I believe, Charles Bronson, and I think it was Fred Williamson, another titan of 70s action cinema, would be the Black Clint Eastwood. What's unique about Pam Grier is she has no corollary. I can't say equivalent because there's certainly no equivalent to Pam Grier, but there is no white Pam Grier. This is another sort of unique sort of phenomenon that surrounds, her debut as Coffy. There were no female action stars before her. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. But as near as I can tell, this was a sort of something completely new, completely different, and really exciting, really fun. I hear so much from friends and family talking about how they're not as excited or thrilled to go to movies anymore or necessarily to watch movies. And I really enjoy introducing films like Coffy to them. Because while these were movies that didn't have the biggest budget, some of the productions were rushed. And sometimes you can tell in terms of, okay, maybe they could have taken another shot at that particular scene, or maybe some of the dialogue doesn't hit as well as maybe it could have. The overall end product in a film like Coffy is just completely ballsy. You have this woman, again, Nurse Coffy, who's watched, her family be decimated, her community be decimated. So she loads up a shotgun and other manner of weapons, and she infiltrates drug rings. She poses as a prostitute at one point to get close to a pusher. She even fakes being a Jamaican model financier to get close to a few guys, and even goes toe-to-toe with the cops. Why we're not making movies like this right now, I have no idea. Add to all of this gritty sort of, very obviously film-based movie, an incredible score written by the now legendary, and may he rest in peace, Roy Ayers. Those of you who know who he is, he's an incredible R&B soul legendary artist. He did the entire score for this movie, and it adds just a whole other element to what Coffy is. It's interesting because you'll have incredibly soulful bits and pieces when she's vulnerable or she's, with her love. And then you'll have stuff that almost kind of feels like a theme of a TV show at times. And it shouldn't work, but it does. Because these films, like Coffy, are so different from what we make today, they're not over polished. They're not hyper cosmetic. It just feels so much grittier and so much more real that when you do get to the points in the film where Coffy is overwhelmed, exhausted, but then she flips her switch and she, night comes and she gets herself into these pretty dangerous places and uses her feminine wiles and her charms and her beauty to take down and take out some real scumbags. It's so much fun to watch. So if you're tired of, you know, content, that's what we're making content these days. I don't know how much film we make. There is film being made. But if you're tired of content and you want to watch an original, exciting film, Coffy is a great place to start. It is unlike anything, I promise, it's unlike anything that is being produced today. You have Coffy as this daytime nurse, nighttime avenger. You have her friend in Officer Carter. You have, she's dating a LA city councilman by the name of Brunswick. You have a guy named, an actor named Alan Arbus, who plays the drug or the crime kingpin Petroni, who's trying to muscle his way into the black drug trade. Just a lot of fun, interesting characters, including one of the henchmen of Petroni is the great Sid Haig, who I believe passed away a few years ago. Sid Haig, for those of you that are familiar with the films of Rob Zombie, who, much like Quentin Tarantino, grew up on a lot of the Grindhouse and lesser known, maybe lesser appreciated films of the 70s, hired on Sid Haig for many of his films. Sid Haig, he's got a bald head, he's got sort of these really intense eyes, just, again, a really unique, singular talent who is probably the most fun villain in this entire movie. And when Pam and he go toe to toe, it's so exciting. The movie starts literally with a bang. Again, the ambition of this movie literally starts out with Nurse Coffy setting up one of the major pushers and working her way in to confront this guy who is literally responsible for her sister's overdose. I'm not spoiling anything there. It pretty much sets up the whole movie. And what is shot on film with regard to Nurse Coffy exacting her revenge on this guy, it's really evocative of what Tarantino would end up doing even more explicitly on film in the 90s. But it's the fact that that is sort of the opening scene, the setup for the rest of the film. Man, you're off to the races with this movie. Lots of poignant moments in this film. A lot of, I hate to say it, but fun violence. There's plenty of nudity. These films were sort of part of the exploitation trend of the 70s, and this does fall under blaxploitation as well. But it's more than that. I think the critics of the film of the time only seem to focus on the violence and the nudity, the sexuality of it, kind of like they still do. No matter the color or the political creed, Puritans are just no fun. And it needs to be said that the use of gratuitous nudity, which I don't think it is, of sexuality and of violence works in this movie, just like it works in a Tarantino film or it works in, a Clint Eastwood film, what have you. It's none of it is bonkers in any way. This isn't Gonzo cinema. It absolutely fits. It serves the characters. It serves the plot, and it's just fun. And that's what movies should be. They should be fun. This movie, like I said, this set up Pam Grier to be the action hero we would kind of know her as. It was made, I think, on a budget of what, 250,000 or $500,000, and in its initial box office release, it made $4 million, which in 1973, it's pretty good. And I think after that, worldwide, it made about 12 million, enough for them to set up and greenlight a sequel that would be called Burn, Coffee, Burn, which ended up getting reworked and became the other iconic film that Pam would do called Foxy Brown. More people, I think, are familiar with at least the title of Foxy Brown, maybe than Coffee. But yeah, that was originally intended to be the sequel. The final frame of this movie is really powerful. And I don't know if it was intended to be that. One of the things to know about Coffee is this film was sort of rushed into production because the guys at American International Pictures, which is they produced a lot of the exploitation films of the 70s, they lost the rights to a film called Cleopatra Jones, which would come out later and would also sort of would become sort of an iconic exploitation film of the 70s as well. And it would come to be appreciated for more than just exploitation cinema. Because one of the guys at AIP lost the rights somehow to that film, they're like, okay, no, they're not going to beat us to the punch. And so they worked feverishly, Jack Hill and his crew. They picked Pam because she had been in a few of their other films before this. Not more ensemble stuff, not solo pieces, but this would be a project specifically for her. And they got it out, and they got it out early, and that was that. You know, a legend was born. One of the things about Coffee that I found really interesting in watching interviews with Pam Grier talking about it is, you know, at the time it was, again, some of this exploitation cinema was sort of looked at as lowbrow, and while some of them are stronger than others, they're still fun, they're still interesting, they take more risks. What's interesting about these films is in so many ways they are a byproduct. These films that would star black leads and black talent is a product of the civil rights movements and the gains that were made in the 50s and 60s leading to the 70s of cinema, where you have characters that are completely self-possessed and taking control of their lives and taking control and fighting back in their own communities against, you know, corruption within their ranks, corruption of authorities, be they politicians or cops. And the fact that people can't see that, I think, is crazy. You know, add to it the statuesque Amazonian beauty of Pam Grier leading it. What more do you want? I mean, really, this is a great night at the movies. Coffee and her other films, like Foxy Brown, Friday Foster, Sheba Baby, Black Mama, White Mama. All these films are free on Tubi as well, and I've sort of really gone down a blaxploitation rabbit hole, and I'm really enjoying it. You know, watching all of these things, hearing the score of Coffee, realizing, oh wait, why does this sound familiar? Because parts of the score were reused by Tarantino when he would cast Pam Grier in his film Jackie Brown in '97. So it's so cool to see these things come around. And again, the reverence of people like Tarantino that love Grier and love these films so much that he literally goes back and gets the actors, and he borrows from the aesthetic, the palette, and even the soundtrack and score. So again, if you're a Tarantino fan, if you just like interesting films, start with Coffee, and join me and go down the rabbit hole of Pam Grier films, because all of her films that she was a lead in are all available free on Tubi. There's also some other great blaxploitation films like Bucktown, which is really a Fred Williamson vehicle that Pam, she's sort of a supporting character to. She's still great. It's still fun to see her. But all of these films, none of them play to stereotypes. Are there stereotypical characters? Sure. But it doesn't paint just one group of people in a bad light. You have heroic black characters. You have heroic white characters. You have evil white characters. You have evil black characters. It's not just a paint by numbers sort of thing. The criticism of films like Coffee, because of its its violence and sexuality, I think, are really unfounded. These things exist in the world, and while I do enjoy a good idealistic film, a sort of high art type of film, that's great. Those should be there. I don't think it should all be B films, but this is more than a B film. This is, again, a really ambitious, interesting, compelling, fun watch. And to watch it knowing what Pam Grier was going to become, or what she becomes in this film, is just, it's really exciting. So, again, if you guys want a fresh take, something else too, before I close. Uh, Looking at Los Angeles in the 70s, there aren't a ton of daytime shots. So there's a lot of really great, like, dark street scenes, sort of almost noirish. Again, I've only been in LA for 10 years, bouncing between, here in Chicago, but it's always fun to see a city in its previous decades. Like, trying to figure out what neighborhood are they in, what cross streets are those, the old cars. Again, the fact that all this was shot on film adds sort of a grit and a texture to it, that when Pam comes onto screen, whether she is in her nurse's uniform going to her day job, or she's walking out of a drug den, with soot on her face and a smoking gun, she's just framed beautifully by the grit, by the darkness, by the neon light, by the light of a lamp. So, again, folks that dismiss these older films, these 70s films, these exploitation films, really have a lot to learn. There's so much fun and so much, I think, to be appreciated in these movies, and you should definitely give it a shot. So, yeah, if I'm missing anything on this, let me know. But I think we're going to do at least all the films that Pam was a lead in, because they're too much fun. They're too exciting, and again, it's too unique. I don't know that we haven't seen the like of a Pam Grier since she did this. Obviously she came back for Jackie Brown. Where are the Pam Griers today? Why aren't we developing the Pam Griers? Why aren't we developing the Charles Bronsons and the Fred Williamsons and the Clint Eastwoods and the Jim Browns? Something like Coffy needs to be remade today. It wouldn't be hard, what with the opioid crisis and the plague of fentanyl in so many communities. You're telling me there isn't a nurse out there who's watched, her friends and family or community be decimated, and maybe she wants to do something about it. Maybe she takes the law into her own hands and dispenses some justice that she just can't get from the law. Come on. Viola Davis, Taraji Henson, Keke Palmer. Do I have to... this shouldn't be hard to do, guys. If you're going to remake something, go back to something as original as this, because it would work today. Bring on Pam as an executive producer. Write her a role into it. Maybe she's the chief of police. Maybe she's the one who trains Coffy, our new Coffy. Guys, there's so much potential in these great old films. But if they don't remake it, that's okay, because we have Coffy 1973, written and directed by Jack Hill and starring the great Pam Grier. Check it out. It's streaming on Tubi for free now, and I'll see you guys in the next one.